what your choices have been, and what karmic timelines and contracts you have journeyed. The light is calling for the reunification of all aspects of life in this realm now. It is calling for the cleansing of all polarities. It is calling for the rising of all sacred heart centers now. All are being summoned home to the greater light now.
Hi, and welcome back to Whole Soul Mastery, Color the Magic, and really the messages of the Arcturian Collective through the posts I make at Frequency Writer. I'm Marie Mohler. I'm an author, a channel, and the host of the Whole Soul Mastery and Color the Magic YouTube channels. And I'm here today with Renee Taintor. Welcome, Renee.
Hi.
We are doing something very different in that we are going to bring through some messages about the latest transmission from the Arcturian Collective. We're going to talk about some of the parcels of energy from the most recent transmission in September 2020, entitled A World in Quantum Ascension. It is exhilaration time on planet Earth now, with changing vibrational landscapes, surging light codes, and 2020 clear soul sight as a living quantum energy to set humanity free. There's a lot just in the title. So let's dive in. You know, part of the reason we talked about doing these, Renee, was so that we could really dive a little deeper. I would love to have some of your perspectives of some things that you pulled out that you wanted to focus on, talk about, ask questions about, because there's a lot of energy in these transmissions, and it helps to unpack some of that energy so we can really apply it in our lives. So ask away.
And so I've been listening to your messages for, 2 years or whatever. And I have been like pausing in the first paragraph the last 4 or 5 months, or maybe more, listening to the introduction that the Arcturian High Council, Mother Mary, Mother Earth, streaming in light codes, take a divine breath with us. And so I've been thinking that maybe I'm not really focusing enough on the absolute significance of what the breath, the divine breathing, because you see, okay, streaming in light codes, oh, that's very nice, yeah, that's cool, but what is that? That the breath and the light is getting streamed in, not just by the Arcturian High Council, right? Because we've got the consciousness in the light of God. So how is that possible? That because you don't think of light really as being consciousness, or the breath being that powerful that it could actually transform you, or the breath brings in. I'm just exploring what I think my understanding of this is, because I'm not real clear on it. That the breath is actually restoring you, or building you up, or cleaning you out, or adding to you,
There's a couple things that I want to say, and it's really helpful to have this conversation to see where the questions arise in people. One of the first things that I want to say is, whenever you hear a transmission like this, or you have a soul reading, a lot of people who have soul readings with me, especially people who choose the reading where we don't do the review at the end together, where they're just going to receive, just like you receive these transmissions, you have the text of the transmission, you're listening to it, and you're having an experience of it. And when people have their own experience of the transmissions, I often recommend to read it or listen through about 2 or 3 times if you have the time. Because the first time, I invite people to really, give their ego a snack. set it to the side and
You're-
allow yourself to just bathe in the frequencies. Really just like drink in with what they're saying, drink in the frequencies, and don't even worry about the words. Don't even worry about understanding anything, because you're literally in a showering of light. You're literally in a shower of receiving these beautiful energies that are speaking universal language through the tones of everything that they're saying. And your body can receive that if your mind never understands it. Okay, so that's just step one, is sort of drinking in that frequency and allowing it to shower you with in whatever ways your unique, body, mind, spirit, matrix, structure, vessel can receive that. It's already wired that way. Yeah.
So when you read the words, they're living words, because
They're living
about
energy.
that before.
They're even beyond living words. They're a living energy.
They're a living energy. So you just reading the words, so even if your mind doesn't understand, you're still receiving
Right.
the energy. Okay, and so
It's like a song. It's just like how you listen to a song. You hear a song for the first time and you may not get all the words the first time you hear it, but you like the melody and it's kind of upbeat, or it's matching a frequency that you have. Maybe it's a little more somber. Whatever the music is, you're not trying to memorize the words the first time you hear a song. You're just having the experience of the song. This is the way I received the transmissions the first time. That's that bathing in the song. Let the song of the living energy of the transmission come through.
So just by your act of reading, because I do read it, I listen to it like 2 or 3 times, and then I read it, because I receive differently when I read, because then I can stop and read that sentence again.
So yes, if you're just, because people read it, because the transmissions come out in text and video, so you can listen to it. So, that's my recommendation, is just listen to it once through first. Just be a receiver. Just receive the song and the energy in the transmission, and just allow that to sort of bathe you in that energy if it resonates, right? Then I recommend a second time hearing it, because the second time, and the same is true with the soul readings, is to take it in a little differently. And now, because you've already heard it once, you're going to say, oh, right, they said that. And it sounds familiar. You remember the energies, but you're listening for a few more details that you're really allowing your attention to focus on a little bit more, to say, oh, yeah, I really resonated with what they said in that part. And you're really kind of listening a little deeper this time. And then a third time, if people have the time, but a third time, to really take it in, you'd be listening for, where are they also leading us? Where have they planted seeds, and what would be our next steps this month in the transmission, in the energies they're seeding in our consciousness? What are our next steps, and where are they leading us to expand, explore, seek, guide, practice something different in our lives? And so kind of, where's the guidance in the transmission? And so it doesn't have to be a 3-step process, but because these particular transmissions are so multidimensional and so multi-layered, it's no wonder that you can read that and sometimes that you don't understand it. You're benefiting even if you never spend any more time than the first few paragraphs, because there's living energy in every word essence that you receive. It's so vibrational and it's so high frequencied, and it already knows these transmissions are speaking to our higher selves. They're not speaking to our lower selves. So if your lower self is trying to figure it out with your mind, it's not going to understand it. But it's really a transmission for the soul. It's like nutrition, cosmic and source nutrition, and Mother Earth nutrition, like the Garden of Eden nutrition for the soul. And that's why not everybody resonates with transmissions like this, because they don't understand it. Instead, not saying everybody would put on heavy metal, but what a contrast, listening to a heavy metal song and totally different frequencies, right?
Well, and the other thing I noticed is I always feel so good. I feel good. The energy that I'm feeling is beyond what I would normally get if I'm reading something else or hearing something else. And I always come away with this peaceful feeling that everything is as it should be, that we're in the right place, that and that's when I started learning about the light. And that was the other thing I wanted to bring up that I wrote down is because I've always been about love, you know, love the one you're with, and love overcomes, and love is the divine mind, heart set. And but the light, I'm learning that it shines the truth. It shines the truth in what's going on in any situation inside of you. But it also, it's also like instructs you, like if you get a revelation that, you know, you're like compromising yourself somewhere or something, it also heals you and leads you. My experience has been, it leads me more into the truth, because when you first get a revelation, you're kind of going, it's like a dawning piece of information that you're going, oh wow, is that true? But because I've always had an open heart, I'm going, yeah, and I'm opening up to the truth. So not only is the light leading me into the truth of what's going on in the external world, it's leading me to the truth of what's going on in me, and where I need to maybe let go of things or transform things that aren't serving me. And so I always feel so good when I'm done reading that. I just feel confident. I feel like, there's nothing to fear.
There's nothing to fear. It
doesn't always last a long time.
Well, and that's why transmissions like this are here, because it is a living energy. It's timeless and it's always there. So say you experience that, and a week from now, or a day or an hour, and you start to lose that feeling, you can always go back into transmissions like that. And that frequency is timelessly, patiently, lovingly, always in the on position. It's always given. It's always there. It's just like the energy of God. You know, in the end, these higher frequency transmissions, right, that are coming from this beautiful loving space, and knowing the highest versions of us, the higher versions of us that we're returning to now on the planet. It's knowing that for you. So when you feel so good in these transmissions, you're actually experiencing yourself. That's what these living transmissions and these living energies are. It's activating in you what you naturally are and how you feel when you're embodying your light. They're literally just bathing us in the frequency that we already are. But it's so noticeable, because on a 3D planet, how often are we in this like unconditional, loving acceptance, high vibrational light energy leading our lives, and everything we say and everything we feel and do? You know, look at us. We live on a 3D planet that has been incredibly challenging and challenged, and there's a lot of toxicity on all levels of our experiences, and there's a lot of love here too as well. But the truth is that the 3D planet has become very toxic to the body, to the mind, to the spirit even. And that's why we're in a time of ascension. It is a time of rising to let go of the things that we're not, to become this natural, blissful, you know, abundant, everything is perfect, it always is and it always was state. And that's when we begin to realize, and we'll go back to the breath a minute because that's important. But, you know, we're beginning to realize that if we're not feeling good, even if there's some kind of dis-ease in our bodies, but even if we're just feeling low vibrational, and, you know, a lot of people are just doing time here. They're just getting by. They're just going from one challenge to the next challenge, or just hoping to avoid challenges and get through the day in some way. You know, there's a lot of passing time in the 3D world. That's why we have a lot of these things in many ways that have been designed to help us pass the time. working, paying our taxes. You know, baseball was a sport that I think was, you know, one of America's favorite pastimes. I think it's even referred to as that, literally the passing of time, instead of embracing and creating through time. So when you feel that way, you can recognize that there's something inside you that activates, that says, I remember this frequency. I remember feeling this good, but it feels, you know, and then you put the transmission down, or you're not listening, or you're not reading it, and we get back into our day and we do laundry and we pay our taxes, or we, you know, do what we have to do. And it's easy for that to become a little hazy unless we have some kind of spiritual practice, some kind of heartfulness, mindfulness practice. And so let's go back to the breath for a second, because, and I also want to go back to what you were saying about the light. And I want to say there's something I learned about it from Colette Baron-Reed. I took a class, it was like the Oracle School class. And she talked about doing oracle card readings. This relates to the breath and light. And the way she teaches the oracle cards, and you can tell she loves them. She loves the energy. She respects that kind of guidance that comes through. And it's basically your energy interacting with you through, you know, a high vibrational set of cards that can speak through symbology and energy. But she talks about one of the first cards that you pull when you do a reading with these cards is essentially an anchor card. And that one card is a vibration that sets the tone for any other cards you're going to pull from the deck. So if you're looking to read your past, present, future, right? If you're looking to know what's going to happen in my job now, 3 months from now, 6 from now, or 6 months from now, however you would do a reading, that first card is the essential card that gives you like a 360-degree view of your life, and it's setting the tone for the rest of the reading, the rest of the guidance that's going to come through. Well, after I heard that, or even now, just today it's coming through, when you receive these frequency writer transmissions that come through the Arcturian Collective, that first paragraph, I hadn't thought about it that way, but it's coming through today, is that vibrational anchor card for the rest of the reading. They're templating your energy in reflecting to you the divinity codes that you are, the light that you are. So when they come through, and I'll read, I have this here, they come through and they say it's Mother Earth and Mother Mary, Almoria, and the Arcturian High Council, streaming through the light of divine grace, prana, and the golden portals of Christ consciousness within each and all of you. That very first sentence, they're anchoring this entire energetic exchange and conversation in these higher dimensional frequencies. They've already set the tone that anything lower than that is not going to be in the conversation. They're already templating and seeding and activating in the listener that you are this Christ consciousness. You are divine prana, right? You are this vessel to a holy purpose. You are these high vibrational color codes, whether it's blue, whether it's white light, whether it's the golden light of the Lion's Gate portals, because color adds a whole other dimensional level of frequency into these exchanges, and color is activational. I mean, we can spend like a series of podcasts talking about color, because color carries sacred intelligence through time for us as well. And it reveals things to us, about our higher versions of ourselves. And so I don't think there's any word, but every word is a vibration. It's not just a word, it's a vibration, it's a living energy. There's not a word that's out of place. That's why when you come away from the transmissions and you're still vibrating in that space and you feel so good, it's that everything, every sound, every vibration, every color, every frequency had a perfect purpose in that transmission. And not all channels receive information this way. I mean, everybody's doing the best that they can. The way these transmissions come through is a song for the soul to remember who you really are. That's what the guides are here. That's why the Arcturian Collective comes through, because they know we've been in a whole cycle of absolutely, nearly completely forgetting who we truly are. So everything that they bring through codes, through these energies. And the breath is how now we are saying we all have free will. You can hear this and it can pass you right on by, and some people do. Not everybody resonates with a transmission like this. But if somebody even stops and pauses and stays in the video for just another minute, right? They're receiving these transmissions. But now, if you take a conscious breath in and you resonate enough to take that breath in with them, now that's actually like, yes, I'm using my free will. I'm choosing to breathe in consciously. Now I'm a participant in the transmission versus just a receiver. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and but it's hard to grasp that the breath has that much power. I mean,
and that's just conditioning. Like if there's still a part even in you, and you're doing such a great job of like languaging what some people may really feel, is that the mind can't understand because the ego thinks that everything's hard. So if it could be that simple that I could breathe my way into this cosmic medicine, that I could just give myself a dose of this light, and I could align myself with the God codes inside me, with my true divinity, beyond any toxicity or challenge or hardship or pain, suffering in my life, that all I have to do is breathe this higher frequencied energy, and my life could begin to change, that I could actually feel better, even though my life, nothing's changed in my outer life, since 5 minutes ago to now when I took that breath. But in the world of the infinite and in the world of who we truly are meant to be, it's that simple, and it's that miraculous. I mean, the simple is miraculous, that a breath can be all you need to reconnect with your God self.
So, and that's, so that is, and you have to like believe that. You have to, because if you just go, you're just breathing in and out and you don't have any conscious connection to that or what that is.
It's not even that you have to believe it. It's that you're invited to engage a willingness to experience it.
And to be conscious that you're doing that.
And you can be conscious, but you can even be unconscious, but say, I'm willing to try out this experience. For some people who this is maybe the first time they're hearing about this experience, and for many people who will listen to this on Whole Soul Mastery and Color the Magic, a lot of people who are, more of that audience already know this. But, some people have these questions, and whoever finds this video, this conversation, this podcast, it's important to go over the basics, because sometimes we just want to be reminded too that yes, it is that simple. God, let's use the word God. You can use source, the great mystery, the creator, Buddha, Krishna, whatever language works for you that helps you to align with this frequency of the all that is, made it simple. The instructions were very simple, right? The guidance for living a soul-filled life, where God is in your life, where the light is shining through you, is simple. It's the conditioning of this world and the 3D matrix that has made things so complicated. And then I know there's people who are probably experts in breathing, and I'm not positioning myself to be somebody who's got extensive training. I have, through lifetimes, been working on my breath, and as a soul who's traveled through time, I know, and I've journeyed many lifetimes, and I've spent time in monasteries, and I've lived a lot of lifetimes probably working on my breath, which is why it's so familiar to me. And I know when I first was reminded of this in this lifetime, when I went to my first spiritual workshop, or I went to an event where somebody was channeling, I heard them talking about the breath, just like you're saying, in a way that I'd never heard about. I think I was always naturally a really kind of soulful breather. I'm a really good sleeper. when I started channeling, breathing just came very naturally to me. So it wasn't ever something I had to think about. And I would say to anybody listening to this, it's like, you don't really listen to, you're not thinking, okay, I need to breathe now. I mean, how many times in this conversation, Renee, have you thought about breathing?
Yeah, I've been
No, but like, really, you don't have to think about
right.
not even like the conscious breathing, just breathing. Source and creation already gave that to us as a natural part of ourselves. And it's what we were given when we first arrived here. It's the first thing we do when we're born is
Well, so that means the air. So the air has the consciousness in it.
well,
Because the guides talk about light codes and the divinity codes and activating stuff in you, and that's because we are evolving, right?
well, and that's our unification with source. So when we come from the non-physical realm to the physical realm, right? And we come through and we develop in our mother's womb, and then we're born into this world, our first instinct is to breathe the breath of God, is to breathe the true life force that is here to sustain us. If you're not breathing, you're not living. Breath is life. But we have dulled that down to call it oxygen.
Just air.
Just air. And we all know it's necessary to survive. That's a 3D conditioning consciousness. We don't understand it as so much more, as literally the nutrition for life.
Yeah,
medicine for life.
The oxygen goes into the bloodstream and goes to the rest of the body, and you couldn't feed the body that oxygen if you didn't breathe.
Right. I mean, there's the basic understanding of the physical requirements of breath to exist in physical form. But what has not been understood, and I want to go back because I want to keep sharing that we don't have to consciously understand this. We don't have to write a thesis on breathing. We don't have to understand how it works. The soul is awakening to value it again and to partner with it and to reunite with it and to bathe in it. Because literally, if we understood, this is one of the most important things. We can literally breathe and clear old contracts that are karmic or that are loyalty contracts or ancestral contracts or relationship contracts or addiction contracts. I mean, we have so many contracts in this 3D false illusion that we have understood as planet Earth. But many of us here know, and many listening will say, but I know this is the illusion and we are entering a new cycle and we are leaving an old paradigm. And your breath is important in leaving that old paradigm. So it's like we have to relax our minds and just really breathe. We're breathing with our hearts. And a lot of people do meditations where it's like you're breathing this energy into your heart space. And you're going to see through that breath and through your heart, you're going to see on the inner planes any messages or colors or, anything that is guidance for you. We're moving into our heart vision. And again, we rely so much on our physical eyes, and they're important, right? This is our 3D energy body. This is our 3D vessel versus our higher dimensional selves. And so it's very easy to try and unpack with our minds. You really can't a transmission like this. It's really something that's felt with the soul. It's breathed with the soul. So
the first time I heard the word conscious breathing.
Yeah.
So to me, it just meant be aware of your breath. And be aware that now you're going to do some conscious breathing because there's energy in the breathing, or there's light codes being activated. See, all that stuff, I'm going, yay, do it, bring it on. But still don't understand how all of that power and light and all that stuff could be that simple, that it's just in the breath and in your being aware of it, or conscious breathing. So I think I know what conscious breathing is, and maybe I don't. It's like I just I just get still and I just breathe in and breathe out, and I'm aware of it. But I'm also aware, I mean, almost like I'm inviting the codes and the healing and the understanding and the whatever. So is that, could you maybe give a definition of conscious breathing?
The conscious breathing is the higher level, number one, of understanding that it's prana. It's got living life force in it. It's more than oxygen. It has light codes. It has divine support. It has the nourishment and nutrition that our souls crave in this realm. But because we've been conditioned in schools and over many thousands of years to reduce our experiences here to simply physical experiences that don't have any other higher spiritual meaning. And we are spiritual beings having a human experience. And we're so wedded to our human selves that many people have forgotten their spiritual selves, right? And their spiritual essence. It's that essence, that soul presence that's infinite and eternal. And we all know that our physical bodies, the human vessels of us, the outer wrapping that we wear in different lifetimes, that dies, right? There's a finite nature to that body, but the soul is eternal. And conscious breathing bridges those two worlds, between the 3D world and the fifth dimensional world, where we're in the physical, we're spirit in physical form. So breathing feeds the physical body, but it also feeds the soul. And when we're not connected with breath as feeding the soul, we are more trapped in the 3D paradigm of just the finite world, what you can see. You believe only what you see. And that's why conscious breathing, there's many ways to talk about conscious breathing. The biggest is really, it is a nutrition for the soul. It is life force. It is unity with God. It is unity with God.
Well, it feeds the soul.
It truly is medicine on every level. It is life force that animates us and leads us into these higher dimensional, more quantum experiences. That is what this transmission is really talking about. But it's also important to go back to these basics and talk about the breathing, because that's the anchor card. And anybody listening to this does not have to understand conscious breathing to receive its benefits. Okay, so you can be a willing receiver, and that's a conscious choice, right? You don't have to be a willing receiver, but the guides are offering this. If you feel any resonance with this energy, and you're willing to receive it, and you say, okay, I am willing to receive this conscious breath. I'm willing to take this deep divine breath in with the guides in this transmission. Then they're breathing source energy with you. You're connected as a child of the universe with the all that is. When you're consciously breathing, you're reunited with source energy in a way that your mind is never going to understand. It doesn't have the capacity to understand. It passes understanding. So understanding this isn't, even that word isn't quite, it's not quite, it's a 3D language to say, I'm trying to understand this conscious breathing. Someone else we listen to talks about inner standing. That would be closer, because that's, I'm feeling from the inside out in a place of inner understanding and experiencing. Our vibrations in a fifth dimensional quantum reality, which is what we came from and what we're returning to again in this ascension process, is vibrational. Language is vibrational, communication is vibrational, manifestations are vibrational. Everything is vibration. The financial systems are vibrational. Everything is energy. It's a false matrix that we've been living in. And we've lived so long here that we're like, what? Energy, quantum, breathing, that's not going to put food on the table here in 3D, right? That's how we've been raised. And we've been reinforced and led to believe and punished and persecuted even through lifetimes if we were somebody who believed more than that. So many have been killed for a belief that there's more than that. And then, of course, there's certain religions that have been allowed to grow and flourish around the planet, or that were forced upon people in different places on the planet by other people who believed they needed to believe a certain way. This has not been a free, sovereign planet for at least 26,000 years, right? So that's a long time to be in this conditioning. And it's no wonder that we've forgotten how to breathe and how to really feel the breathing, to go into a vibrational connection and communication with the breathing. That's what the invitation is to have a vibrational connection with the breathing. It's not your mind. Your mind is probably never going to read that first paragraph and say, oh, I get that.
Yeah, I've always, so in the last, I don't know, 6 months, I kind of really slow down and go over that first paragraph or two really closely. And because I did, and I think I shared this with you a long time ago, that these words are living. You might get this much when you first read it. The next time you'll get that much. And you keep going. If you keep reading, it's going to expand you more and more and more. And so before I forget, I wanted to ask you, so you said everything's vibrational. Is the breath vibrational?
Yes, absolutely. And that's why you could add colors, which are vibration, into your visualization as you're breathing, right? Your soul knows exactly what it's doing when it's doing those things. When it says, even if you don't understand it, again, your mind may not understand it, but if you say, okay, I'll picture the color purple because I feel really attracted to that today. So your breath, the oxygen that you're breathing in and even closing your eyes can help you, because literally you're signaling that you're closing your eyes and your perception of the outer world, and you're looking inside, right? You're looking inside to see with inner eyes, which is really to feel, to sense. It's activating your sentient system. You're connecting with vibration, which is the language you've known from the beginning of time. We understand sentience, but I might have been Spanish speaking in a former life, and then maybe I was German in another life, and now I speak English in this life. And then those other languages are kind of obsolete to us through time, right? We learn it and then we forget it the next life. No, this sentience is like the cosmic infinite language of our soul presence, of our divinity. And we can recognize that that's why people who find their way and they find themselves attracted to transmissions like this, just hearing it for the first time, it doesn't happen to everyone because not everybody's ready for the language again. But in the song that's coming through vibrationally to the soul, the medicine, the life force, and the prana that's coming through from the Arcturian Collective here, it's speaking that universal language. And some people are in that place of awakeness, or they're rising to a greater awareness, and they say, wait, something in that feels really familiar, or something in that just feels really good. My body resonates with that, even though that's not my physical everyday experience. Well, that's how change begins, because you're seeding a different consciousness, and in this case, a higher consciousness, to something you want to experience. It's just like you could have somebody, about the vibrational language of the universe, who's living a very high vibrational lifetime, and then a tragedy strikes their life. And they can make the choice to say, this feels so bad that I'm going to lower my frequency. Now they're listening to music and messages and watching movies about pain and suffering and struggle. Maybe they'll be attracted to certain wines or, addictions. Everything is really a vibrational choice and engagement, and a receiving or a participation. We live in a living, conscious, breathing universe.
And I think what's going on, I mean, it's certainly happening in my life, and I see it on the planet, is that we are moving out of that denser reality. Yes. And so I've noticed a huge change in these transmissions,
yeah.
That, at first there was so much light, and a little bit more light, a little bit more light, a little bit more light. And they're getting real intense in the information. And I think, so my understanding is that the light and love is literally, to use your words, summoning us back to itself, back into the fullness of the light and the love that we came from, that we are in reality, but that we're not maybe experiencing to the degree that we want. We haven't fully taken off the shackles that have held us in, like erroneous beliefs, erroneous perceptions, and some of the things that I have learned in the last year or so are quite frankly shocking, and that's been going on our planet. And so I welcome the light, I welcome the truth and the love that is summoning all of us, because it is not an easy thing in your own self personally to see things, whoa, I didn't know that. But I've been open to seeing things because I don't want to stay in that
sleepiness, the amnesia.
I want to have the truth. I want to be my full sovereign self, whatever that looks like.
And it's in that process, what would be one of the first skills you would draw in? If you have been in density and you're wanting to rise into a greater truth, even if some of that truth is shocking or painful to know, so you could eventually rise through the truth and move beyond it into your divine self. If that's the journey, and breath is what is required for life, you're going to look to your conscious breathing to fill you with the prana and the accurate reflection of you and the light codes that you are, to help you breathe through that pain. Just like a woman in childbirth, what do they also work with every woman who's given birth? Again, the focus on her is in the breath, breathing through that pain, right? She might not be conscious that it's prana. Some people might, but interestingly, how the instinct is to breathe deeper when there's a shock, because source is right there with you. Source is breathing through that with you.
And I think that's why I am where I am, because, and it hasn't been easy to walk through the things that I wasn't aware of. And it's been painful, but I also feel more of myself, and I see it happening all around me too, that other people are going like, what?
Right? Well, and this is what, let's bring up in that second part of this conversation. I know you have some questions, but let's bring it here, because I think this is really what they seeded in this conversation, is that we've conceptually understood, many people listening to this will already know that there's this earth ascension. Some people may not, it might be new, right? But many people listening will have found this because they're already on a path of seeking at some level, and they're already aware that the earth is changing and that we're really rising in our consciousness. Now, until kind of 2020, there has been more of a conceptual understanding of that. Okay, even in 2012, when there was supposed to be this big shift, right? December 21st, 2012 was the end of the age officially, according to the Mayan calendar. There's been a lot more things that still needed to unfold in this last 8 years, but 2020, there's still some very big vibrational turning points to quantum leap us into this fifth dimensional reality. You don't go from the place of density we've been in as a planet, and then all of a sudden, source waves a magic wand, poof, and now we're all in unity consciousness and everything's beautiful and everything got resolved. No.
We
wish, right? But ding, but we don't have to go back up through 26,000 years again. It's not like that. So it took 26,000 years or more to descend from a fifth dimensional unity consciousness and connection into the oneness, into this total separation consciousness, a lot of pain and suffering and scarcity and all of those things. So, but we've understood as a concept, many have for decades, that a time was coming of big change. But I would still say my experience too as a channel, I'm witnessing the conceptual understanding in myself in hindsight, because even in the last 10, 20 years, I knew the changes were coming. I could feel some energetic changes, but it was still conceptual to a greater degree. 2020 has been a huge turning point for all of us, because the things that have been talked about things that might be in the realm of like resets, whether that's vibrational resets overall, or it's a financial reset, or it's governmental resets, or it's job resets, or relationship resets, all of it. We are seeing more and more of what is out of alignment with the true nature of ourselves, the true light, the true divine spark that we are as a person, as an individual, and as a collective, is crumbling and dematerializing. And that's when you can see some of the chaos, all the division coming to the surface, tension, anger, frustration, fear. All these things are coming up, and it's the change is undeniable. So we're not just thinking conceptually, oh, there's going to be some big earth changes in the ascension process. You know, I wonder how that's going to go. We're in it. But now what's happening is we're moving from the conceptual understanding of it to the vibrational understanding and living of it. So we are becoming the change we wanted to see. I mean, I hadn't thought
it. We're inhabiting our vision of how we want our life to be.
Exactly. And the messiness, we can equate this to childbirth. I'm not the first to do that, but childbirth is beautiful, and we could call this ascension process beautiful. We can call the elections in the United States beautiful. We can call an illness beautiful. We can call anything beautiful from a higher soul perspective, seeing through our third eye and our heart frequencies and, breathing in prana. Everything is beautiful. But from the lower, third dimensional world where many people still live, because there are still many people trying to sleep. But I want to bring out, as the landscape that we literally live on this planet is changing, it is literally becoming more vibrational by the second. It always was vibrational, but in a world of density and conditioning in a 3D matrix, we didn't have the eyes to see that. But something's activating inside. What I think, even though many people are divided on this planet in some ways, or at least that's the story, that's the game being played, we can all look and say something is happening. Something is accelerating, something's amplifying, the tension's bigger. And it has to come to the surface as like a costume. Division has been a costume that we've all worn in the 3D theater. Separation consciousness is the biggest costume we've collectively worn. So of course, division and all this unrest is going to come to the surface to be on this massive, theater on the center stage in everybody's consciousness. And very soon we're going to throw off our costumes and like hug each other. And, really that seems silly, but it's true. We're going to look, all of a sudden, we're going to see the soul presence like in Lakesh, I am another you, or Namaste, I bow to the divinity in you. These fake lenses, or these contracted lenses, or this very small vision is going to break away, and all of a sudden more of our sentient skills, our vibrational skills that can see much deeper. It sees through lies like butter. It just, everything is transparent and naked with that level of vision. So if we think that people are arguing today or challenged today in their lives, financially, emotionally, spiritually, in whatever way, just watch the vibrational landscape that's changing, and that vibrational change is impacting all of us, and it is going to manifest collectively a quantum leap of consciousness. But we're birthing, and that can be messy.
Oh, right. We are coming out of the old ways, and there's so much fear. There's so much fear. People, screaming at each other because they don't have the same political mindset, and I've seen, videos and stuff of people like in your face because you're not wearing a mask. But I do feel confident because of the love and light, because there's even in, like, it was one of the last paragraphs in that said, and I take a lot of comfort knowing that the light and love are summoning us. into the place where we all want to be. We all want to be there. There's no doubt about that. The divisiveness is, I think, because of the fear, because if we don't, the humanity's going, if we don't do it this way, we're screwed. If we don't do it this way, then we're done for. And yet, so I always go back, because I've had fear, but I always go back to trusting that love and light that is summoning us into, like, not to make us that, but to show us that we already are those sovereign beings, and that we do have that love and light in our, that's part of us, that's our power.
That's what's summoning us, is the essence inside us that we already are the light and love. It's just, it's,
We don't know it. We're still in that fear. But there's one of the last paragraphs in there, up a little bit, says, do you honestly think that the divine plan would be to have humanity living in suffering and pain and fear and struggle and disease, and
and that's an invitation to see bigger.
the bigger
Because
picture.
when you're in the suffering, you're not asking questions about why the suffering, or really trying to seek truth and figure it out, or feel or see a different way. You're just trying to survive. And that's the root chakra. And a lot of people are at that root chakra level of living because that root chakra has been stimulated by fear, purposefully by the matrix. It requires this level of emotion. This is different in 2020. This is like a global fear expression, but it's also summoning the antidote, which is the global expression of unity and the global expression of light. So we are, moving out of a world of duality where polarity, I see polarity and duality slightly different, just like courage and spiritual fortitude. Courage is the 3D version. Spiritual fortitude is a level beyond that. I see the duality, and so we have fear as a level here, and we have the light and the love and the unity consciousness are the remedy, right? So, there is a tremendous amount of fear on the planet. And I guess I was talking about polarity and duality, but I see duality and polarity, in vibrationally different. Duality is a 3D word. The D in the duality is 3D. And polarity is a 5D. It's a higher consciousness, and polarity works together. It's like it's part of the divine design. We're not eradicating these polar energies. We're integrating them. They work together as a whole. They're not fighting each other for survival in 5D. They work together to power worlds. In this distorted matrix, we fight each other, right? That's the separation consciousness. That's part of the distorted codes. So, yes, is this a journey for anyone to uncover this language and to reawaken to the truth of who they really are? Yes. That's why souls incarnate. And certainly one podcast is not going to untangle all of that with a few insights, but maybe it'll activate some people. Maybe it will invite them into a deeper place inside themselves, inside their conscious awareness. And, there is a tremendous amount of fear, but you have your first, like you said, first nature. You talk a lot about that first nature. The breath is first soul skill. First support of life, literally in physical form. We breathe when we come into this world. And the last thing we do before we pass into another form is we take our last breath.
Well, I see unity happening everywhere. And I also see, because other countries are rising up against their dictatorship governments, and they're coming together in unity.
Yes.
And for me, it's not political. It is not a political thing anymore.
It's bigger than politics.
It's like, what is the right thing to do for the people, and why isn't that being done? And in all the countries. And so it is kind of an amazing thing to see how the love and light are summoning us through this. So my picture of it is that maybe the energies are getting a little more intense, and that's why. Is that right? Is that what you see? Because it seems to me that we're getting more and more truth, more and more higher vibration that is forcing anything that's not higher vibration to be looked at, to be brought up and transmuted, let go, acknowledged, accepted, and let go. Because if you see that something in your life isn't working, you don't want to keep it once you see it, right?
Well, I would back up and just say a bigger picture, because I'm such a bigger picture person, which helps to see the things that are happening, the actual events we can track and have conversations about. But this whole 3D matrix literally feeds off the energy of separation and fear. It is the emotion and vibration that feeds the matrix. And those that have been largely self-appointed to control this matrix over thousands of years. That's hard to imagine, but it's not hard to imagine if you can understand that some people were awake to what the 3D matrix is, and their job is often to keep most of the masses pretty asleep. So they create conditions and events and circumstances that keep most of us so busy just trying to earn a living and survive that we can't possibly focus on that there's others invested in us always churning out some level of fear or trauma or struggle or something. But this world feeds off that energy in many respects. And 5D is nourished by love and unity consciousness and source energy. See, in the higher dimensional realms, the divine design is the template of the physical world that we reside in. So source is streaming through those worlds all the time. You don't have to hear an introductory paragraph from source that says, I'm here, because in the higher dimensional realms, source is omnipresent. It's only in this false matrix, this kind of anomaly of spiritual evolution, that this 3D matrix has been. And there are plenty of people who talk about the history of the earth, galactic wars, many, go way deeper into that rabbit hole. I respect and I know little bits about those things, but I do understand from my own journey. I can track it from way back beyond 26,000 years ago to Lemurian Atlantis and other civilizations, at least those times. And that's before most people's conscious awareness kicks in here. So when you have a realm that largely feeds on fear, the conditions always have to be created and manifested so that at least some population is exhibiting the fear that feeds the matrix, right?
Now it's on a global scale.
Now it's on a global scale, but because everybody needs to feel it, to wake up to it, so we can all say, I don't give consent to this dream anymore. I'm not participating in the dream of separation anymore. But it takes it coming into your personal experience to realize, I didn't realize I was feeding that. I didn't understand the mechanisms of how that works. And we don't have to understand all of it. We just have to realize that that's the game that's been played. And if you can just understand that 3D has been a little bit of a game and an illusion, then you can breathe your way and you can connect with the light, which is literally who you are. And that's your first step. There are other steps, but this is a first step of just, I'm willing to breathe the higher dimensional prana that clearly feeds my spirit in a way that I didn't previously know about. And
I understand too that when I do it for me, it's impacting the collective because we're all connected. Exactly. So doing it for me is also co-creating the change and the peace on earth and the stuff that we need to do. Exactly. When I do it for me, which is why wouldn't you do it for you? Because anything inside of you that doesn't feel good, you want to look at and go and get rid of it, right?
Well, and clear it out. And that's what we're doing, is we are literally, it's just like plenty of people have done some detoxes or cleanses or or you just you're out in the yard, you're working hard, and you come in and take a shower. It's like literally taking a spiritual shower whenever you breathe. in this way. And I can't say that all day, every day, 24/7, I'm like, ooh, I'm consciously breathing, but it's in my consciousness. I spend time with it at least several times a day, or even first thing in the morning. And when I can set my day in that intention, then I'm receiving those codes, and it's the anchor card. It provides that vibrational inner standing where I'm connecting with the deeper part of myself that is timelessly true. And then any fear that's showing up all around me in the current 3D landscape and the invitations to this higher quantum vibrational landscape, I've already breathed myself there as a participant in the new earth. When we don't do that and we don't set our anchor card, we really have to become what you say, Renee, a reactive creator then. So my conscious creation is through conscious breathing. They partner, and they're both necessary.
And being aware that you're a conscious creator puts you in the bigger picture so that you're not like this.
Exactly.
In the 3D, even though it's still easy to do, but at least you have the tools of the big picture to take you out of that.
Let's close this out. And, I want to thank you, Renee, for being here in this podcast conversation. We'll do it again if we feel like we can pop on here if there's anything more we didn't get to. But, this is just something new to add to our Whole Soul Mastery conversations. And I'm going to post them in the Frequency Writer area for anybody who's interested. I'm going to welcome people from Color the Magic. I meant Color the Magic. So I'm going to post it on Color the Magic on YouTube. But I will invite that audience to come and explore more at Whole Soul Mastery, because that's where more of these conversations are taking place. And I thank you for your heart, your open heart, your wisdom, your willingness to ask the questions that I know some people are thinking and they just don't know how to ask.
And I have more clarity. Thank you, Marie.
You're very welcome. And until next time, blessings to everyone. Namaste. Together we rise.
Namaste.
Namaste.